Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gents. I can't see everybody who's in the room. I'm assuming everyone's there, and I'm assuming we've all got a coffee and a croissant to get you going. So, my name is Beresford Lee, and I'm your host for today's event. I'm the chair of Black Voices Cornwall, and I've been a business coach for 20 years. So, welcome to our business event, Financially Inclusive Cornwall. This event is a partnership between Swig Finance and Black Voices Cornwall. So before we get started, going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So the attendees today should be muted and your camera's disabled. If your camera is on or your sound is on, please put yourself on mute, switch your camera off. Just to ensure this is the best streaming and to ensure that there's no background noise. Should also let you know that this session will be recorded today. So if you'd like a copy of today's webinar, please drop me an email or message me via LinkedIn, or I'll post my email in the chat. So today's session is about opportunities, networking, awareness, and supporting vision, business, and your dreams. Our guest today will light a spark for you, giving you information, knowledge, to push you and enable your business and enterprise to thrive. It's never too late to be what you might have been. If you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you and build theirs. And the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Okay, so let's get started. So today I'm going to introduce our first speaker, who is Rachel Thompson. And Rachel is the business manager for Swig Finance. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Beresford, for that introduction. As Beresford said, I'm Rachel Thompson, and I'm a business manager at Swig Finance. Swig Finance is a not-for-profit company. Our main office is actually based in Cornwall, but we cover the southwest of England from Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly right up to Gloucester, across to Wiltshire, down to Dorset, and all the bits in between that. So we do cover a wide patch of the southwest. Swig Finance lends to businesses who can't access finance elsewhere. So not because there's necessarily anything wrong with the business or with them, but because they don't fit the criteria for the mainstream lenders like the banks. So maybe they don't have a long track record of being in business, or they have a great idea, but they're relying on projections to show that they can afford to repay a loan. Or it might be that they're just in a sector where the banks don't have much appetite for lending to at the present time. So hospitality and leisure at the moment is probably one of those sort of key sectors. We have a range of different funds to suit different businesses. So we can help from startup businesses, where we offer the government startup loan scheme, right through to funds to help growing businesses. So always come and chat to us and see what we can do. When you apply for a loan with us, you'll be allocated a business manager. So that's somebody like me. We'll spend time talking to you to understand your business and your plans, and to make sure that you have the best chance of a successful outcome with your application. What makes us different is that real people make our lending decisions, and we will look at your overall situation to make that decision. That's why we spend a bit of time getting to know you, so that we can write a credit application for you, and our credit team will understand the business and where you are going and agree to help you. Once the loan is agreed, your business manager will continue to work with you and support you for the term of the loan and afterwards if needed. So we're always there as a sort of friendly ear if you need somebody to talk to. We can also introduce you to other organisations who might be able to help you with the support you need to continue growing your business, and you'll meet some of those other organisations on today's call. We do need you to help us with the application, so we will need some information from you, and it's great if you can have this or most of this ready when you approach us for the initial chat. So we need from you a business plan and financial forecasts, at least 12 months forecasts. We need trading accounts for the last 3 years. If you've been trading for that long, if you've only been trading for a year, then obviously a year's trading accounts. Management accounts from the date of your last set of accounts up to the current date, just so that we can see where you are at the present time. Some bank statements, a personal credit report from Experian. And it's really great if we can have a copy of your CV, because that shows us what your experience is. The most important person in your business is you. So make sure that your plan includes what you bring to the business. Your inspiration and passion really matters. So don't be shy about blowing your own trumpet on your business plan and showcasing what you've got and how you're going to make the business a success. I'm always happy to have a chat about plans for business. So even if you think it's too early for you at the moment and you're perhaps not ready to talk about finance, but you just want an initial chat, always happy to have a chat. My contact details will be circulated out after this event. So get in touch if you want to have a chat with me. We can have a virtual coffee or maybe even a real life coffee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Some great information there, Rachel. And just to remind everybody, Rachel is a business manager at Swig Finance, and she has been for the last 2 years, and her background is in commercial finance and relationship management. So please do take her details and get in touch with her. Okay, just to remind you all, there's a poll going on at the moment. So it takes about 30 seconds to complete it. So do engage in the poll. The first session, which we are at the moment, is on funding support, and the second section will be on business support. Okay, I'm going to introduce you now to Mike Chapman, who's the business manager for Cornwall and Isle of Scilly's investment fund. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, Beresford. Thank you very much. So yeah, as Beresford says, I'm a business manager working on delivering the Cornwall and Isle of Scilly investment fund. So that essentially means that I'm responsible for evaluating, executing and managing investments that we make. So the investment fund is a European-backed £40 million pot of money just for Cornwall. It's designed to support ambitious, high-growth businesses who, for whatever reason, are unable to get the funding that they need through mainstream sources. So it might be that you've got a lack of track record. It might be that your business is very projection-led, or it might be that you haven't got the security required by a mainstream bank. So we provide this investment in two ways. So it's either debt or equity funding. And that funding ranges from £25,000 to £2 million. If you aren't sure of the difference, this is a quick summary. So the equity product is where we would provide funding in return for a share in your business. So similar to Dragon's Den, for example. And whilst there's no monthly repayments associated with this, we as an investor would instead look to get a return on our investment through the sale of the company. And the other option we offer is debt funding. So that's a more traditional business loan to the company, similar to what Swig Finance do, which would have a monthly repayment amount depending on how much is borrowed. And if you aren't sure what's right for you, do get in touch, and we are always very happy to have a chat. As we're often looking at very forecast-led and fairly early-stage businesses, we do spend a lot of time looking at the financial forecasts, so similar to what Rachel says about Swig Finance, just to help us to really understand your business. So it's great that we've got Heather from Access to Finance here, they've got a really talented team who can help you prepare these forecasts, as Heather will tell you about. And I'm also really pleased that Anne Cooper is on this call today from Cornwall Laser Clinic. So Anne is one of the most recent beneficiaries of both the Cornwall and Isle of Scilly Investment Fund and also Swig Finance, as we provided funding to Cornwall Laser Clinic as a joint lend. So Anne's had a really challenging few years, as I think she'll tell you about, but she came to us with a really well thought through business model, some great financial forecasts. She'd already identified the premises, and she'd already built a brilliant brand and social media presence. So I was really pleased that we were able to help her to achieve her growth ambitions. So I'll leave it to Anne to give a bit more detail about her really inspiring story and her experience with the investment fund.
Thanks, Mike. That's some really useful information for everybody involved in business. And I'm sure they've got your details behind you, so they can't forget who you are. And just thanks for that great bit of information. Our next person, Heather Coupland, she's a program delivery manager for Access to Finance. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Margaret. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So, as they said, I'm Heather Coupland, and I run the Access to Finance programme for Cornwall, which is run by Oxford Innovation. So basically, we do what it says on the tin. So we help you to access finance. So that could be from debt to equity, from crowdfunding to grants. So the journey really starts with us when we ask you what it is that you need money for. So what do you need money for? When do you need it? And how much, importantly? And then we take that information and really help you look at all the different options because there really isn't one funding provider who will provide finance for everything. So we look at what's best for you. And obviously we work really, really closely with SWIG and COISIF, and also a lot of the grant funders, particularly the Cornish grant funds and Innovate. So we work with Big Productivity and ATI and Marine Iron and so on and so forth. So we're really here to help you kind of remove the barriers that you might find en route to accessing funding. We're here to try and remove those barriers. You already heard there's lots of information that is required by funders when you start that journey, and that's the other thing that we do. So not only do we help you work out what's right for you, but also then we help you put those documents together. So we help you with your business plan, looking at your markets, your customers, and so on, helping you build a document that the funder will want to see, and very importantly, those financial forecasts. Most people a bit wary of that side of it, doing the forecasting, but that's what we're here to do. So we sit with you and work with you one-to-one, just helping you build that forecast and put it together a piece at a time until you've got a really working document that gives you a sense of your profitability, but also gives you the knowledge about what cash flow you need and when. So we make sure that you get the right amount of money, and on that road will also challenge your thoughts and ideas and make sure that you're doing the right thing. And then we help you with the application process. So we're often the people who are having a conversation with Rachel or with Mike to say, you know, just to, you know, share thoughts about what's going on with the application, etc. So we kind of hold your hand throughout the whole journey. So our details are going to be circulated later. So if you're interested in speaking with us, please get in touch. And most importantly, probably the thing I really want to leave you with, it doesn't cost you anything. We're completely free, funded by Europe. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. So some great information there about finance and how to access finance to grow your idea and your dream and your business. And thanks so much, Heather, Mike and Rachel. As an example of what's been done, I'm going to present to you Anne Cooper from Cornwall Laser Clinic, and just going to tell us about how her journey has been working with some of these financiers. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good morning, hi. Yes, so I'm Anne Cooper. Basically, I had never heard of either SWIG or the CIO SIF until I was looking to get some funding for my business. In a nutshell, I was a solicitor for 16 years, so had quite a sort of commercial background. I entered into a new relationship, and about 5 years into that relationship, it became quite clear that my partner had quite a serious drug habit that I wasn't aware of. I first became aware when money started going from our bank account. I would be paid on a Friday and there'd be no money left on a Monday. This went on for longer than really it should have. It's not a background that I knew anything about. I didn't really know how to support him or how to help him. But the upshot of that was that our house, credit cards, car finance were all in my name, and things weren't paid on time, and my credit was just in the gutter, basically, just fell off the cliff. So as I said, I'd had a professional career, had private banking, had all of those things, and it very quickly all disappeared. I worked for a government department for the last few years of my career and was able to take a redundancy that allowed me to move to Cornwall and kind of start again really with my daughter. And it was I had I've got polycystic ovaries, which is a hormonal condition, and I'd had laser hair removal. And when I was speaking to one of the ladies that treated me, she'd said, well, you know, you're at this impasse and crossroads in your life, why don't you, you know, it's a really good business. She was working at that time out of her spare room and had just moved into some new premises, and it really sort of taken off. So after sort of a year of discussions with her, I did a business plan. Like Mike said, I kind of got all of my ducks in a row. Wasn't quite the machine that I used for the laser was principally the only piece of equipment you need, but I think it's just under sort of £85,000. So it's not an easy piece of kit to get hold of. So as I said, I'd got a big marketing plan. I wanted to just establish whether or not there was any interest in Cornwall. So on the back of that marketing plan, I think by the time we spoke to Mike, we'd got about 40 people that had already pre-booked for treatments. I understand finance and business a bit, so I knew my credit would really impact me getting a loan. So I'd originally looked at asset finance, and that's how I first got involved with the CIO, because one of Mike's colleagues had spoken to me about asset finance, but actually the machine exceeded the limit, I think, for the asset finance there. But he spent some time chatting to me, and I explained my situation, how I'd got to where I was, and that was kind of it. It was just a nice conversation, and it's like, sorry, I can't help you. And then literally 2 days later, I had another email saying, well, look, actually, you seem like you have got a business plan. There seems to be, you've done a lot of work before you've spoken to us. Send it to one of my colleagues and we'll take a look. And that's kind of how it started, really. So I have to say I had perhaps some more work than some people might do before they get to you. And it was a tough application process. However, I think it really does focus your mind, and it's just the opportunity to actually speak to an individual. So there were things that I, for instance, shared with Mike about my personal life, and I'm now sharing with you that almost all of my friends and family are not aware of. So my ex-partner is now serving a prison sentence for what turned into sort of physical abuse as well as the financial abuse towards me. So there are aspects of my life that I felt I had to share. I wasn't forced to share with Mike, but I think the relationship that Swig and Mike create is such that you feel you can share that information. And actually, that's just the tipping point between perhaps them lending or not lending on paper. It just looks like somebody had a very good income and just didn't manage their money. And that was not the reality of my situation, but that's very difficult to explain to a computer program at Lloyds Bank or something like that. So I think very much that was, for me, that was the best part of actually forming this relationship, is that you do have to share some of yourself, and actually my kind of journey, I hope, is what will bring some success to my business. I'm not looking at it, my business is driven by supporting ordinary people, not people in high end aesthetics clinics. It's kind of, I am who I am, I'm just a normal ordinary person, and something quite extraordinary in an unpleasant way happened to me, and it was just using that to kind of turn it around to what I hope will be a successful business and a good partnership, actually. And you do feel as if you haven't just been given the money and that's the end of it. There was definitely that support afterwards, and I'm really, really pleased. I don't quite know how it would have come about if I hadn't sort of been involved and spoken to sort of Mike and his colleague, but yeah, the support is brilliant.
Excellent. That is such an inspirational talk and story, what you've given us. I'm really grateful for sharing your vulnerability and where you've come from.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to speak to a lot of people, just knowing that no matter where you are at the moment, you can still reach your goal and you can still reach your opportunity. There are a few things you have to do, which is like a business plan.
And I think that's it. You do have, you have to put the work in yourself, and perhaps even if the situation isn't of your making, you are going to have to perhaps work harder.
Absolutely.
To attain that success. But actually, doing that groundwork first, I think will stand you in better stead sort of moving forward. And perhaps it is better to have to go through a more detailed process than you would perhaps with another financial lender, because you do have to consider things that you might not necessarily have considered as a new startup, which is what mine was. And I think that's the best way to go about it, definitely.
Awesome. Anne, thanks so much for sharing your story, and we're all really grateful, and it's just great what you've just told us. So at this stage of our session, I'm just going to remind you that we've got a poll going up, so if you haven't filled it in or looked at it, please do. It only takes a few moments. I think we're going to have a Q&A session now. For the Q&A session, So I haven't got the questions. So if you've got any questions for us, if you can put them in the chat, if you haven't done so already.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have got any questions, if you can either place them in the chat, or there is a Q&A box as well. We haven't got any questions at the moment. I am going to close the poll in a couple of minutes, so if you haven't voted, if you could do that now, and then I'm going to close that. Could I ask Anne a question?
Yes, of course.
Sorry, just unmute myself.
No, that's all right. I found your story was just amazing, and I'm so impressed with what you've managed to do. That's really good. And Mike speaks really highly of you as well. He's been very complimentary. Do you have plans? You've got this one site now. Is your plan to kind of expand that? Do you think there's more demand?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I wasn't sure whether Cornwall was ready for laser hair removal, but I'm working 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening, sort of most days of the week since we open. So I think I'd said to Barris, if our sort of turnovers over 20% higher than with our projected figures were. So the plan is definitely to expand, or to look at even sort of considering franchise in the future. But I think it is just there is a difference, I think, being involved with yourselves rather than banking, that I know that I could pick up the phone and just have those conversations, even if there's no sort of material plan for a few years. I think, I would hope that it's a relationship that can continue on as we sort of grow. So yes, the idea is definitely, I took a room. I wasn't sure whether, to take premises, but actually the room's probably almost too small for us now, even a month in. So yes, the idea is definitely to expand, yes.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Really good.
We've got another question which has come up from Caroline Deeds. She says, what type of businesses do you fund? And I think this is to the financials. What type of businesses do you fund? And do you fund the creative industries? I work in the film production industry. This is Caroline Deeds. Can I give this to one of you? Do
you want me to reply, Mike?
Yeah, or Rachel,
sure.
Please.
Yeah, I think, Caroline, it would depend on what you wanted the money for. Yes, we do fund creative industries. We can look at pretty much every industry, with the exception of arms distribution and nuclear waste. We definitely don't look at those sort of industries. But yeah, we do look at creative industries. So I would say get in touch with either Mike or I and have an initial chat with us, because whether we can help is going to largely depend on what you're looking to do. Heather would be another good person to engage with as well, because there definitely will be something out there for you to help you.
Awesome. Yep, I do know Caroline, and I know she's got great ideas for film production. Okay, she said thank you. Awesome. Okay. We're now going to move on to our business support section of the meeting. And I'm going to introduce to you Andrew Upton, who's the delivery manager and business coach for Oxford Innovation Cornwall. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, and good morning to everybody. Thank you for that. I'm going to talk about Oxford Innovation Cornwall, which, as you would guess, is part of Oxford Innovation, who also deliver the Access to Finance programme as well. Both programmes, as Heather said, are publicly funded. We've had £6.7 million of EU funding to support businesses within Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. And this is actually the fourth programme that Oxford Innovation have delivered in Cornwall. And since 2009, we have supported something like 5,000 businesses and helped support something of the order of 4,000 new jobs within Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. So we are very established at what we do. And what we provide is coaching support in an intensive way for high growth businesses. And the current programme will support both established businesses and also startup businesses. But the difference between us and other publicly funded business support programmes is that we concentrate on the high growth businesses. So that means businesses who are expecting that they have an opportunity, and also they've got an ambition to reach turnovers of at least 250k they're either at that and growing at 20% turnover per annum, if they're an established business, or if they're a startup, that they will expect to reach 250k turnover within 3 years of startup. We will also support larger businesses that are economically significant, that actually don't have the opportunity to grow quite so quickly, but they are expecting still to grow, but maybe not at 20%. The purpose of our programme, and the purpose of all publicly funded business support in Cornwall, is really to drive economic prosperity. And the reason for that is that if you look at all of the measures of economic prosperity, Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly are way behind both the Southwest region and also the UK nationally. So if you look at productivity, if you look at rates of full-time employment, look at the level of qualifications, we've got a lower percentage of people in professional occupations who earn less money. All of those things, Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly are behind Southwest and UK. So the aim of these programs is to support businesses to develop new jobs, particularly higher salaried ones, help them to develop new products, new services, enter new markets, all of those things that will make the economy of Cornwall grow quicker and be more prosperous. And of course, these businesses, will frequently require investment, and that's where the first set of panelists are very much involved. What we do in our programme is undertake coaching support. And it's really important to be clear what that means. So we do not act as consultants. We don't come in and tell a business what is wrong or what is right, or you must do this or you must do that. What we do through a range of questioning techniques that are very much on the coaching side is help the person in the business themselves to actually find their own answers. And that's really important. The kind of support we offer is a wide range. So we offer one-to-one coaching. We have various diagnostic tools that we use to assess where a business is. We have workshops, masterclasses. We have written materials. And if a business is recruiting at a senior level with a fairly high salary, we also currently have an executive placement scheme that can support that recruitment and can give a smaller grant for the first 12 months of that role. What impact do we have? We've got lots of evaluations, lots of measures that we look at, but probably the most important one is that nearly 3/4 of the businesses we have supported in the last 2 years have actually reported improvements in profitability. And given that we've all had COVID, we've all had lockdowns, that's quite an impressive, well, I think it's quite an impressive measure and evaluation to show that we've actually demonstrated output. How do you access us? You can access us directly, and the contact details, as everybody have said, will be shared. But for publicly funded business support, because each program focuses on different areas, there's an organisation called the Growth Hub. So if you Google Growth Hub Cornwall, they will be in contact. They will do some initial conversations so they can direct you to the most appropriate business support organisation and business support programme that exists in Cornwall. And very happy for people to come and talk to me afterwards, or answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andrew. That was really informative. I'm sure there's lots of information which people didn't know, which is why we're here today. And as Andrew said, you will be able to get in contact with them. Either his email's going to be in the chat, or we can get it to you. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thanks.
Our next speaker is Rachel Walden. She is Tidal Leadership Consultant Limited. Do you want to say hello, Rachel? Hi, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes, yes.
Great. Thank you to all the presenters so far with their insights, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. And so I have a question for you. And sort of, what do you think when you hear the phrase "feel the earth beneath your feet"? It's all about feeling grounded, isn't it? And I always think in the context of building your own business, it's about staying true to your core values. But there's more to it than that. It's literally about kicking off your shoes, feeling the earth or the sand underfoot or between your toes. And this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and how connecting with nature is good for the mind, body and the soul. And I think the last 15 months of the pandemic has really tested our resilience. And I feel that the analogy of the shifting tides is appropriate as we respond to that ebb and flow of life and just cope with the new business landscape that's out there. A bit of background, I grew up in Devon and Cornwall and have always had an affinity with the sea, hence my analogy. And my core values are about helping individuals realise their potential. And that's whether moving into a new leadership role for the first time, or perhaps just expanding their sort of scope of responsibilities. And it's about helping businesses sort of create that diverse and inclusive environment so that any change is empowering and sustainable. And these core values have kept me grounded when making decisions to change roles during my career in the past. I've certainly ridden on the waves of opportunity that have come my way. And in many cases, that's taken me out of my comfort zone to far-flung places across the world. I've been very lucky to sort of work in Africa, Asia, North and South America and Europe. But I soon realised that to keep afloat was not just sort of about treading water, but was really about tapping into the resources available. And that was finding mentors, developing my skills and networking, even learning about the different cultures I was working in, and in some instances just brushing up my language skills or social history, but really trying to connect with the businesses and the places I was working in. But sometimes it was about retreating to the beach or finding that safe harbour just to be able to reflect and plan my next move. And often that meant coming back home and feeling the pull of the Southwest. So like many of you on this call, I set up my own business last year here in Cornwall after 25 years of working for international companies in different industries, particularly around leadership development and talent management. And it was really time to reset, give back to the Southwest region where I feel really grounded. So my business focuses on providing coaching, one-on-one or for teams, and delivering leadership training, and particularly about helping businesses create that inclusive environment. I revisited my analogy as I sort of looked at lessons learned from my career to date, and I just feel very lucky to be in a region where it has actually been easy to connect with nature during this time of COVID and get out there and support my mental well-being during these times of change. So my message to you is this: and feel the earth beneath your feet, and to absolutely stay grounded to your values and your dreams. I think, Anne, that was very inspirational story that you gave us. And also ride the wave, seize those opportunities that come your way, because you never know where those opportunities will come from. And keep afloat by tapping into all those great resources you've heard about today, the funding, financial support, training and development, coaching, networking. And also, I think finally, it's time just to reflect and find your safe harbour. And that's where sort of business coaching or leadership coaching can be really useful, to have that safe space to start looking at the future. And finally, just be good to yourself and your teams. Give them the space, develop their skills, and create that environment where everyone can bring their best whole selves into work. Because I just feel, remember, we can't control the tides, but we can certainly learn to respond to that ebb and flow. So good luck in your adventures.
Thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you for your slide as well, which kind of just says it all. Feel the earth beneath your feet. That's really important, staying grounded, and it's not always going to be easy. So ride the wave, and I love those two. I'm gonna remember those, and I'm gonna steal those two quotes for me because they're great and awesome. Yeah, some more great information for all our participants here today. I see we've got a good number of participants, and just getting some really great information. Okay, the next person I'm going to introduce you to is a man I've been working with, Matthew Walton, and he's the head of service for Cornwall Neighbourhood for Change. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your project, please?
Of course. Thank you very much, Beresford. Morning to everyone. So yeah, I am one of the heads of service at Cornwall Neighbourhoods for Change. Some of you may know a bit about us, some of you may not. So for those that don't, we are a charity based in Redruth. We've been around for around 20 years now, and we've got we've reached out. We have a satellite base at St Austell. We are fundamentally funded through European funds for particular projects, and what we tend to try and do is work with those people from the furthest back and those that have had lots of deprivation and inequalities, and try and give them some support where they've potentially not worked very well with mainstream services. One of the projects we're currently running at the moment is a project called Engine Room, which is around supporting people to take an idea, essentially, and turn it into a working business. And we do that through splitting the project through 2 different parts. We offer 12 hours of support prior to registering a business. And then we offer a further 12 hours of support post-registration to kind of offer that kind of guidance through those initial bumps in the road and things that they might find difficult to manage. One of the things we have found, which is why we run this project, is within our communities, there are so many brilliantly gifted people that have come from an episode of trauma or deprivation, which has had profound impact on them and their motivation and their skill sets and education and so on and so forth. So this is why we want to do this. We run this county-wide, so anyone in Cornwall can work with us on this engineering project. Some of the aspects that we will support people through is making a business plan for them. So getting it onto paper, I think you alluded to it earlier on, Beresford, it's getting it out and getting it into reality, making it real. And that's a way of getting started. And when we talk to our members, so many of them have brilliant ideas, but they just don't know where to start. So this is what we do with those people. So we start them on a business plan, we give them the guidance, the template, the structure, and to get it out to make it real. We look at marketplaces. We want to make sure that they understand that is there a market for what their idea is? Is it going to be successful? Who's going to buy your product, services? Who are they and what will they do? Where do they live? All of these types of things where we can start them thinking about the product and where it's going to be placed in the market, and essentially allow them to make some money and have a successful business. We look at their experience. Does their experience fit the business? Do they need to look at potentially some training that we can tap into to go alongside the delivery, you know, and making sure that they have that skill set to run, given that they're on the project and they've already recognized that they need that startup support and that guidance. So that's a brilliant first step. Then we can reach out and look at other areas that we can really support them to grow. We look at branding. For anyone that started their own business or has a business, then you know your branding is massively important, and there's a lot of science that goes into your branding and marketing that isn't necessarily obvious at first glance. So we go through all of that with them and make sure that they have a solid understanding and support them in their design. Creating marketing strategies is something else we do with them and support them. A lot of the people that we support have come from financial inequalities. They may be on benefits and so on and so forth. They don't have huge amounts of resource to pump into marketing. So we have to look at very innovative and cute tricks of how we can kind of get maximum exposure for minimum investment. And that's part of what we help them achieve. And obviously, as they start receiving an income and growing, then we can, you know, kind of expand that and make that bigger and go more mainstream with marketing organizations potentially. We talk about managing the money, making sure they understand the difference between turnover, profit, and cash flow, and the importance of each one of those. You know, we say that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, it will help you sleep at night, but cash flow is king. And it's just those simple things that we can just keep, you know, kind of teaching them and getting their understanding of. We look at risks, legal risks of your business idea, preparing risk registers for them, understanding what can go wrong and what the consequences may be, and what they will do if it does go wrong, because you all know that businesses do have bumps in the road, and there are, in those early days, difficult areas to navigate. So it's not a case of, okay, we can't do this anymore, stop. It's understanding that, yeah, we've had this bump in the road, so let's learn from this, let's safeguard ourselves and move forwards. We look at registering, so we support them with registering their business, whether it's a sole trader, a limited company, or even a community interest company for those that are not for profit. We look at support networks, so it's about pulling people in. Who do they know? Who can we offer? So organisations fantastic like SWIG and Cornwall and Isles of Scilly Investment Fund and many others that we can signpost and network with, and because they might not even have a clue these people are around, so we can say, have you thought about this? We could start those initial conversations. And then the 12 hours once they've registered, we can tailor that. It can either be, we can go through generic kind of modules, we can revisit what we've done, but equally we leave it open. So, when they're trading, we can't predict what kind of issues they're going to face in those early days. They may come and say, Matt, we're having a nightmare with marketing. Can we spend a couple of hours on that? Fantastic, brilliant. It could be, Matt, I'm looking at employing my first person. We've done brilliantly in the first couple of months. Can we look at employment law and what that means and how I make sure I'm covered in that regard, or insurance, all of those things that kind of go into that. We can do it via workshops, we can do it via one-to-ones, we can do it virtually, we can do it tentatively face-to-face at the moment as we start to kind of come out of this. I'm not going to say COVID, because we always say, we've been saying it for the last 18 months, but as we kind of come out, we can do that. But I think also one of the main things that we can do at CMC is we have so many other projects, not just from an employment point of view, but from a health and well-being point of view, a crisis point of view, lots of different things that we can offer a holistic wraparound support. We believe strongly in this Maslow's hierarchy of need. And if your house is on fire, or you've got nowhere to live or anything like that, it's very difficult to focus on the top of that pyramid about getting a job, starting a business. And we know that people are complex. So just offering business support is all very well and good. But if they have a benefit issue and they're not receiving any money, they're not going to engage. They're not going to progress through that journey. So we can do all of that as we're doing it. We have access to our learning contracts, accredited higher education, community learning. We can pull all of this into a delivery model to give them the best chance. I could go on for hours, but I'm aware of time, so I will leave it there. Absolutely, that's what we do.
Matt, thanks so much for sharing that, and as a testament to what they do. We at Black Voices have been working with Cornwall Neighbourhood for Change. So no matter how experienced you are in business, it's always good to go back to basics. And me as the chair, I've decided to go back to basics and talk to people of, right, are we doing this right, and are we on the right track? So I'm grateful for Cornwall Neighbourhood for Change, and they are a great organisation. And as Matt says, they're not just business support, they're a wrap around organisation. So thank you so much for that, Matt. Thanks. Okay, our next guest is Dennis Lindsay. He's from the Chartered Managers Institute. And actually, I love this guy. So I'm going to let Dennis introduce yourself, who you are, and what you're going to bring to this seminar. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning. So Beresford, you're going to have to keep me straight, because like Matt, I can speak for hours. I'm going to try my best not to. I did prepare just some slides, just so that it can frame the conversation more than anything else. So let me know if you can see the slides.
Yep, we can see that, Dennis. Thanks.
Good. Yeah. So I'm representing the Chartered Management Institute this morning. Got many hats on. I'm not going to explain them all. I haven't got enough time to do that. But the Chartered Management Institutes are the chartered body for leadership and management, and they've been working with business, governments, education institutions for the last 70 years to actually promote excellence in leadership and management. So why that's topical today for financial inclusion, I'll come on to in a minute, but I'll start with these slides. And I know there was a bunch of people with many things that kind of cross the topics that I'm going to discuss today. Thank you very much, Anne, for your account of where you've come from and where you're going to. I think that's fantastic. So challenges are to be overcome. So this slide is just talking to the impact to financial inclusion for some underprivileged and underserved communities due to the pandemic. But within the challenge, I just wanted to put out there that there's a body of evidence that's already detailing that an inclusive strategy in business has a very strong business case. So there's a number of researchers that I put on the screen, so you can have a look at those. There's the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy that actually detailed that if there was a full BME representation in the workforce, it would accrue an additional $24 billion a year to the UK economy. And then there's the now famous McKinsey report that says that organizations that are ethnically diverse in their leadership outperform their peers. And of course, there's other kind of researches. The one that's topical because of what happened last month, not going to go into that, is the Baroness's McGregor Smith's review that looked at race in the workforce and how there is some deficiencies there that, if corrected, can accrue benefit. But those are challenges, but there are opportunities. And there's opportunities because the UK have left the EU. So, of course, the UK is a multicultural country, and we are now outward looking and looking to do trade deals. We've now landed some famous ones with India and Indonesia, which will increase kind of jobs in the UK, but also increase international trade. And in fact, the Department of International Trade are promoting by its Export Academy kind of free courses for how they can get small to medium-sized enterprises involved in international trade, and targeting also, whilst they're doing that, the international diaspora that's in this country, and I'm one of those, that has global links into the places of our parents for the benefit of the UK. Also, as part, there's a challenge, but also a risk in that the pandemic has accelerated what we are calling the fourth industrial revolution type technologies. So some of those are the digital ones, so those cloud computing and platform businesses. Here we are today on Zoom, and everybody's very familiar with that now. And before the pandemic, I bet a lot of people were not. I was even on Zoom with my 90-year-old auntie in America for her 90th birthday. She didn't pick up a mobile phone, let alone a computer, before the pandemic, and now she's proficient at using, those mechanisms to communicate with me across the Atlantic. So my point is, there's lots of opportunities because the pandemic has accelerated some of these things that we're going to do in the future, but we are now doing now. But with those opportunities, there are also societal consequences, because there's the digital divide that we've got to make sure doesn't permeate. And of course, there's other things like the now infamous things like face recognition, which is around the artificial intelligence, where that was proved to be discriminatory to people that are Black and brown, as an example. There's other examples around, if we are to push out these sort of technologies, that might exclude people from the workforce, because there's lots of automation and orchestration going to be part of that capability. But also what I put on the other slide, which I won't go into because I know Jones will cover it, but there's opportunities around, financial inclusion based on fintech. So that's great for all those that are able to get hold of laptops, smartphones, and mobile, and also tablets that will allow you to get access to those new services wherever you are. But if you are not able to have a smartphone or a laptop, then you might be excluded from that. So therefore, whilst all of these new things are coming into view, we've got to make sure that as a business, we are responsible in our intervention and therefore responsible in our innovation, so that whilst we are doing things for the betterment of humanity, we don't exclude any community from getting access to these new services and these new products. And in fact, the Sayed Business School for Oxford University, or by the way, I'm not using this as a preference, I just happen to have a course from Oxford University, so I know it well. So they say purpose is going to drive businesses. Is back to what Rachel said earlier. So your values and your beliefs, and therefore you behave as an organization, those are the organizations that would drive the economic recovery, because they will be addressing the big challenges of this post-COVID-19 era, generation worklessness, aging population, the fact that we need to serve underprivileged, disenfranchised and disaffected communities. And of course, the governments also recognize that by pushing forward the importance of good governance, management and leadership around all our organizations and what we do. So that was a quick whistle stop, because I didn't want to keep talking. I didn't want Beresford to tell me my time's up. To get to my business support slide. I will distribute this slide afterwards so that you can have access to the links. So in support of everything that I just said, the CMI have provided free of charge a practical guide on workplace inclusion, so that all organizations can benefit from using diversity and inclusion as a business growth strategy. And they've also provided other resources in view of a digital bite-sized program that you can access that can give you a practical, a scripted guide on how you can implement a kind of action plans within your organizations to create a truly inclusive culture in your business. But also the government has provided a Help to Grow program, because they've also have recognized the benefits of helping small to medium-sized enterprises with helping them with their executive development. So there's an executive development program which is funded by the government to the tune of 90%. I think the fee at the moment is £750 per organisation that's registered in Companies House, that has employees between 5 and 250, I believe. And also there's a Help to Grow Digital in recognition that you can use these new techniques that are platform-based, that are also cloud-based, that will allow you to be able to join in the digital economy and to drive down your efficiency, or improve your efficiencies and drive down expenditure, but also to help you grow. So my last slide, and Beresford didn't tell me to stop, so I did well. What I will provide afterwards is this slide to everybody, so you can get access to these kind of resources in your area. And I'd end by saying I'm starting to establish a good kind of connection with Cornwall. It was last month that I was involved with the Chartered Management Institute with an international day events, which went particularly well. And I really do enjoy being involved in Cornwall and what you're doing down there. I think it's very vibrant, it's very engaging, and I like the fact that diversity and inclusion for you isn't just about colour, and it's not just about specific buzzwords. It's truly about how you can get all of humanity in Cornwall engaged in what you're trying to do for the betterment for everybody down in Cornwall, and I enjoy that. So thank you very much for inviting me today. Back over to you, Beresford.
Awesome as always, Dennis. Very informative. So glad you're going to leave us with the slide so that we can kind of recap on what you've said. And yeah, it's just a really important point you've picked up on, which is the inclusion for all, not just for the Black and brown people, but for our Cornish people as well, and for our people in our remote places in Cornwall. How do we access and understand the reason for this inclusive kind of engagement? So that's great. Our next guest is Jones. Jones is the founder and chief executive of Money Story. So I'm going to bring you straight in, Jones, and good morning. Would you like to tell us about your project?
Good morning, Beresford. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me, and thank you to everyone who's spoken so far. I believe I've got 4 minutes, so I'll try and talk about my project, but maybe try and focus a bit on how I got here and share some of the whole funding experience I've had. in that context. So I'm founder of Money Story Technologies. We've developed a financial well-being coaching app. We're kind of setting out to be like the Calm or Headspace. These are meditative apps. We're trying to set out to be the Calm or Headspace of money. And we came out of a program in Cornwall in Falmouth called the Falmouth Launchpad program, which is an affiliate program of the Falmouth University or Business School. And it basically is a program that weaves together a master's in entrepreneurship and development of a real life business. It's funded by the EU and the university, quite linked to, I think it's been mentioned already, the regional development and the diversification of the regional income, which is mainly travel based at the moment. So we have clear outcomes around recruitment, employment, and that kind of thing. What we discovered as part of the program is we're matched to HSBC. They wanted us to develop a first bank account, and we were deadly scared of working in fintech or financial technologies. But when we looked at what was happening, we sort of felt and realized with the help of the program and the structure it brought that, you know, the emotional dynamics affecting individuals, subjects like financial competence, people's relationship with money and their emotions, were seldom being addressed by current technologies. And so we set out to think about how we can develop technology to help an individual to live out their financial lives with optimism and confidence. So we have this big dream of getting 100 million people worldwide to move from financial anxiety to financial competence. And this was kind of conceived around about 2018-19. So before COVID-19, and obviously the situation is a lot worse now, including those with self-employment and all the rest of it. So that's fundamentally what we try to do right now, is to help people live out their lives with financial competence and to basically flourish. And I could talk more about the product, but I'll set that to the side. What I wanted to quickly talk about really was so why am I here? How did I get here? I moved over to Cornwall from Southeast Essex about 2 years ago because I had a startup previously that I was working on that failed. And it died. We raised some money, but we didn't get to where we wanted to go. And, you know, I almost went back to work, but no one would have me because I'm a very highly employed guy with locks and, you know, quite young, who wanted a senior role, and no one's going to give it to me. So I said to myself, you know, I need to go back and look at business. And what attracted me to the Falmouth opportunity really was that my background has typically been as an entrepreneur in the typical sense of things. I'm Nigerian, we're quite entrepreneurial, we set up businesses, we do stuff. And it's never really been about structure. It's never been a critically evaluative process to developing a business. So I thought to myself, you know what, rather than work and do what I've always done, how about trying to do something different and find some structure in how I develop a venture? And that's what brought me to Cornwall. That's what brought me to the program. Just to be clear, my last level of qualification before that was a HND. So, because I dropped out of university to sell photocopiers. But hey, there you go. So it was about 10 years in between, and I'm back doing education all over again. And I say that to say that I was part of a program, I paneled the conversation based on some research by the British Business Bank that looked at the outcomes for BAME community around entrepreneurship. And that was quite interesting. And some of the outcomes of that were really talking about the not absence, but the opportunities for the BAME community really around planning. So that's things like business planning, which has been mentioned so far already, business models, so developing your business model and what you're trying to do, and obviously access to finance. And so what's wonderful about this call so far is that we have a real good skew of support holistically. Particularly, I love what Matt was talking about really, because as a BAME founder or Brown founder, there are a lot of emotional dynamics affecting your capacity to engage in your venture anyway. So having that wraparound is fantastic, but also having that opportunity and acknowledging the importance of planning in what we're trying to do is really, really critical. And that applies to me because, as I say, I dropped out to be a sales guy. I do sales, I get money. Every time someone tells me, write something down, thinking you're wasting my time. So it was a real leap for me, but I've been able to do it. And I'm sure that, you know, the opportunity is there if you're willing to. So to be where we are right now, we've had some funding from the Falmouth Launchpad program, a couple of £1,000 to help us build our app and MVP. Obviously, I didn't say, Masters was funded as well, so that was paid for. And since then, we've also had some grants from the likes of the social investment business. We're working with companies or regional funds like Resonance. And this also speaks to the whole business planning stage, right? Because I think the last point on this is that I'm privileged because of what I do and a social impact to realize the focus on BAME founders and social impact and how much grant support there is. and how much, you know, focus there is in our community, but it does help to have some form of plan, some form of clear thinking around what you intend to do to really maximize that opportunity. That leads me to my last point, which is really around ecosystems. You know, moving here 2 years ago was a challenge. Not knowing anybody, of course, I've got my BBC family, Black Voices family. That's fantastic. They've come alongside of that. But obviously, I was part of the University Innovation Group. So, you know, there are more of those communities around. And being able to plug into those communities actually gives you access to insights and understanding as to who to go to and where to go to. So just to encourage anyone thinking about or currently working on a venture to leverage those opportunities, because they actually are here, and the ecosystem in the Southwest is one that really wants to drive entrepreneurship. And I think we can take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jazz, and just thanks for sharing some of your vulnerabilities and some of your just life. You know, you spoke about failures, and being successful in business is about failing and trying again, and then learning about structure and process. So just thanks for all you've shared there. We do have another question and answer for a couple of minutes if there are any other questions. However, I'm also going to take this time to thank all the panelists for giving up your time today and sharing this information. I'd especially like to thank Rachel Thompson from Swift Finance, who's in partnership with Black Voices Cornwall to make this event happen. So we're hoping to have lots more co-design events like this in the Duchy in future. And we want more people to get involved, listen, and just believe in your dreams, and just know that there is access to help, support, and finance right here, down here in Cornwall. So I don't believe we have any more questions. So just thank you to all the participants who's got involved as well. And I wish you all a great day, a blessed day, and hope to speak to you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.